Jakarta is this advanced. So why are Indonesians still working in Malaysia? That one question started a war in the comments. Because on one side, people see skyscrapers, luxury cars, perfect roads, modern trains, and suddenly assume every single person must already be rich. That's the illusion of big cities. Jakarta looks futuristic. No denying that. Even visitors from Malaysia were shocked. This doesn't feel behind at all. Public transport is clean. The roads are beautiful. Toyota and Honda are normal cars here. And honestly, that reaction says a lot. Because for years, people outside Indonesia kept pushing the same narrative. Poor country, cheap workers, migrant labor. But then they land in Jakarta, and reality punches them in the face. Glass towers everywhere, massive highways, young professionals, businesses moving nonstop. The city feels alive. But here's the part people still don't understand. A modern skyline doesn't magically erase population pressure. Indonesia isn't a tiny country. It's massive. Hundreds of millions of people. One city can shine brightly, while millions are still fighting for opportunity somewhere else. That's not failure. That's scale. And honestly, this is where the conversation got uncomfortable. Because some people mocked Indonesian workers abroad, calling them illegal, calling them desperate, but others fired back immediately. Do you think skyscrapers create infinite jobs? That line hit hard, because it's true. A giant building may look powerful from outside, but inside, maybe only a few thousand people work there. Meanwhile, millions are competing. That's the reality nobody shows in travel vlogs. And here's something even more interesting. The same countries criticizing migrant workers often depend on them the most. Construction, factories, cleaning, security, domestic work. Entire industries quietly survive because migrants keep showing up. Nobody likes admitting that part, especially online. The conversation slowly stopped being about Jakarta. It became about pride, ego, class, who gets respected, and who gets looked down on. And personally, I think people confuse migration with weakness. That's the mistake. Leaving your country to survive, to send money home, to support your family, that takes insane mental strength. Most people talking online couldn't survive 1 week doing it. Meanwhile, these workers cross borders, learn new cultures, take brutal jobs, and still keep going. That's not embarrassing. That's resilience. And the craziest part? While people argue on the internet, Southeast Asia is changing fast. Cities are evolving. Power is shifting. Old stereotypes are collapsing in real time. Jakarta is proof of that. Not perfect, not flawless, but impossible to ignore now. And this whole debate exposed something deeper. People are comfortable with Indonesia being underestimated until they actually see it for themselves. Then suddenly the narrative changes. Fast. But this is bigger than Jakarta. Because the next country surprising the world might already be rising right now. And that's the scary part. Most people only realize a country is rising after it's already too late to stop it. Look at Southeast Asia right now. 10 years ago, people laughed at the idea of this region becoming powerful. Now, global companies are pouring billions into it. Factories are moving here. Tech is exploding. New money is everywhere. And cities like Jakarta, they're becoming symbols of a completely different future. But growth creates another problem nobody talks about. The richer a city becomes, the more invisible the struggling people become. Tourists don't see that part. They see malls, luxury apartments, coffee shops, nice airports. They don't see the guy working 2 jobs, or the mother sending money back home every month, or the workers leaving their families just to survive abroad. That reality stays hidden behind the skyline. And honestly, social media made this misunderstanding worse. Because now people judge entire countries from 15-second clips. One video of skyscrapers, and suddenly everyone thinks life is easy there. That's not how real life works. Even the richest countries on earth still have people chasing opportunity overseas. Americans do it. Europeans do it. Asians do it. Humans move where survival makes sense. That's history. But pride changes people. Some started using Jakarta's success to insult migrant workers, as if struggling people somehow ruin the image of progress. That mindset is dangerous, because a country's strength isn't measured by how shiny its buildings are. It's measured by how hard its people keep fighting. And Indonesia, those people fight hard. That's why they're everywhere. Construction sites, restaurants, ships, factories, hospitals, businesses. You'll find Indonesians in places most people would never survive. Quietly working, quietly adapting, quietly building lives. And yet, the internet only notices them when it wants someone to mock. Funny how that works. But something is changing now. The new generation is becoming louder, more confident, more educated, more connected to the world. They're no longer accepting old stereotypes without pushing back. That's why debates like this explode online now. Because people are defending dignity, not just countries. And maybe that's the biggest shift happening in Asia right now. Not infrastructure, not money, mindset. People are starting to realize they were never as behind as the world told them they were. And once a population stops doubting itself, everything changes after that. Everything. And once confidence enters a country, you can literally feel the energy change. People start building faster, dreaming bigger, talking differently. That's exactly what's happening now. Not just in Indonesia, across Asia. The world spent decades treating this region like cheap labor. Now the same region is becoming the market everybody wants access to. That reversal? Most people still haven't fully processed it. And here's what makes it even crazier. The people who built these countries up weren't always the rich elites. It was ordinary workers, street vendors, factory workers, drivers, migrants, the same people some internet users love looking down on. History is ironic like that, because while people online argue about status, those workers are quietly funding families, building homes, paying school fees, changing entire generations. One paycheck at a time. That's real power, not flexing online. Not pretending to be superior because your city has taller buildings. Real power is sacrifice nobody claps for. And honestly, a lot of Southeast Asian countries are built on that sacrifice. You can see it everywhere if you pay attention. Parents working overseas for years, children growing up on video calls, families separated just to survive economically. People call it working abroad. But emotionally, costs way more than money. That's why this debate hit such a nerve. Because it wasn't really about Jakarta anymore. It became personal. Respect, identity, dignity. Who gets treated like human beings, and who gets treated like statistics. And the internet exposed something ugly. Some people only respect workers when they come from rich countries. If the worker comes from a developing nation, suddenly they become a joke. That mentality still exists, but it's getting challenged harder now. Because countries once seen as weak are modernizing right in front of the world. And every new skyscraper, every new railway, every new business district forces people to rethink old assumptions. That's why reactions to Jakarta feel so emotional online. For some people, it shattered a narrative they were comfortable believing. And the truth is, Southeast Asia is entering a completely different era now. Young population, growing economies, massive digital expansion, huge consumer markets. The next few decades, this region might shock the world. Not through war, not through politics, but through growth, relentless growth. And maybe one day, people will look back at these old comments and laugh. Because the countries they underestimated became the ones shaping the future. And when that happens, the internet will pretend it saw it coming all along. That's how history works. People mock growth in the beginning. Then they deny it. Then suddenly, they act like it was obvious from the start. But the people living through the struggle, they remember everything. They remember being underestimated, being laughed at, being treated like they came from lesser countries. That kind of disrespect stays in people's minds for years. Maybe that's why so many reactions online felt emotional. Because deep down, this wasn't just about economics. It was about validation, finally being seen differently. And Jakarta became the perfect symbol for that shift. A city that forces outsiders to pause and say, "Wait, this is not what I expected." That sentence alone changes everything. Because expectations are powerful. For decades, many developing countries were trapped inside global stereotypes. Poor, chaotic, hopeless. But once people actually visit, the image cracks immediately. They start noticing things they never expected. Modern transport, huge business districts, fast internet, creative young people, massive middle-class growth. And suddenly the old narrative stops making sense. But here's the important part. Development is never equal. Not every province grows at the same speed. Not every family benefits immediately. That's true in every country on Earth. Even global superpowers still have poverty, still have migration, still have people chasing opportunity elsewhere. So expecting Indonesia to become magically perfect overnight? That's unrealistic. But what's undeniable is momentum, and momentum is dangerous. Because once a country gains enough confidence, investment, and ambition, it starts accelerating fast, sometimes faster than the world expects. That's exactly why major companies are watching this region closely now. Not out of charity, out of opportunity, because they see what's coming. A massive young population, rising consumers, expanding infrastructure, digital economies exploding year by year. This is no longer the future. It's already happening. And honestly, the people who still rely on old stereotypes are going to be left behind mentally. Because the world they're describing is disappearing. Slowly, then all at once. And maybe that's the real lesson from this entire debate.